storm that gave us all that snow and ice. As this gradually clears away, though, behind it, there will be a little bit of a break for this eastern coast, but elsewhere, more wintry weather working its way down from the north, and that does include for us in Dallas. There could well be more flurries of snow there as we head through Sunday for the Super Bowl then. A little bit further south, and for most of us across the Caribbean, it's fine and dry. Cuba there and Haiti and the Dominican Republic getting away with a settled day. But meanwhile, a little bit further west, there'll just be the occasional shower there as you head down through parts of Nicaragua. Up towards Europe and in the south, it's now looking glorious. The north is very, very different, though. We've got a very brisk wind that's still bringing in lots of clouds and lots of wet weather too. So the temperatures are getting to double figures, but it's feeling far cooler than that. We're not really seeing much sunshine at all. Plenty more in the way of heavy rain there in the north as we head through the day on Sunday. But further south, that's where the sunshine is. 16 degrees, that's 61 in Fahrenheit for us in Madrid. And it will also be fine across the other side of the Mediterranean in Morocco as well. But further east, more showers there, just working their way across Libya and into Egypt as well.
From local traders to international finance, it's commerce that makes the world go round. For global companies and developing markets, communication is the currency. And information is the most valuable commodity. Counting the cost at this time on Al Jazeera.
The main stories here on Al Jazeera.
Of course, that these trials will actually go ahead.
From the world to your phone. Al Jazeera Mobile.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello, I'm Sahil Rahman. You're watching Al Jazeera's extended coverage of the ongoing turmoil in Egypt. On the programme, we're not leaving. He is leaving. Pro-democracy protesters dig in for another night in Liberation Square. The protesters refused to move despite a direct appeal from an army general who went to see them. But while Hosni Mubarak's party's top brass resigns en masse, he's staying put. Solidarity protests in Washington amid mixed signals about just where the United States stands on Mubarak. And made in the USA, the technology allowing Egypt to spy on its internet users. Welcome, it's midnight GMT, 2 a.m. in Egypt, where the standoff continues between millions of protesters and the nation's veteran President Hosni Mubarak. But in one of the latest developments, the top brass of Egypt's ruling National Democratic Party has resigned. Amongst them is President Mubarak's son Gamal. The US is making it clear its priority in Egypt is for a peaceful and orderly transition of power. The man Obama sent to Egypt to meet Mubarak said his leadership was crucial during the changes. But the White House says Frank Wisner was speaking for himself. Meanwhile, opposition figure Mohammed el-Baradei has criticised US policy. He said it appears the Americans are siding with whoever is the most powerful on a particular day, rather than taking a principled position. So, as the standoff continues, Mubarak has been manoeuvring to secure his position. Alan Fisher takes a look at the latest moves made by both sides.
The TV announcement of big changes in the ruling party. Members of the National Democratic Party have resigned today. Dr. Hossam Badrawi has taken over as Secretary General and head of policy. Out the executive committee, including the President's son. For the people in the square, it's a step, but they want Mubarak out as the country's leader.
What's the point of members of the National Party resigning when Mubarak can go and form another party, which will be worse than this one? He will then become the president again. We have been like this for 30 years. Enough is enough.
Earlier, the protesters were asked to abandon their protest to clear the square to go home. The appeal came from the army's top general in Cairo, who met anti-Mubarak campaigners face to face. He asked them to think of Egypt and go, so business and life could get back to normal.
We need to open this road. This road is blocking traffic. There are a lot of government offices that need to be open, and if we don't open this road, people won't be able to work. Also, we need to clean up this area.
The government has tried to get things back on track throughout Saturday. It started with the president meeting senior members of his cabinet and talking about the economy. And then the Prime Minister told state TV that slowly it was business as usual.
I mean, for every day that goes, stability returns and we are more hopeful. We no longer see the events happening like last Friday, and security forces are gradually returning. Today you don't hear about more clashes, which shows that generally things are getting better. The opposition itself is very divided. But this doesn't mean that we won't talk to all parties. In the end, the main thrust of their demands is the same.
Night has come to Liberation Square, and with it inevitably a rise in tension, a worry of what the darkness may hide. The government wants the protesters to move. We have no intention of going anywhere. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
Well, these are the latest pictures coming out of Cairo. We can join one of our correspondents. We're not naming them for safety reasons. He joins me on the phone now. Just bring us up to speed on exactly what's going on at the moment. There were reports of gunfire earlier in the night.
Yes, that gunfire was around about an hour ago. It was a few shots very close to where I am, close to the barriers, which actually earlier today the military tried to remove. It's generally been a quiet day. There have been sporadic, if you like, moments of excitement amongst the protesters in there. I think at one moment as well that the army were actually placed in between two groups who were chanting sort of rival slogans at each other. But it's relatively peaceful now, and they're hunkered in and around what's become an almost sort of a tent city up at the top end. But as I say, yes, it's pretty calm at the moment.
How would you describe the mood generally on the ground? I mean, it's been quite a busy day for the protesters, certainly making a lot of noise.
Well, it has. It's been pretty festive, I suppose, considering all. There's a lot been happening on a political level as well, seemingly, but it hasn't deterred them. They are steadfast and are very sure in their aims, and refuse to move. But certainly we haven't seen the massive numbers that we have seen earlier in the week.
But it has been a busy day in terms of politics behind closed doors.
Yes, I think it's safe to say that this has been certainly the most significant day in terms of politics. We have obviously moves that seem to be made by the Mubarak regime that seem to have given them a sense of confidence, if you like. The significance that Gamal now has been, his son is not allowed to stand, has resigned. The Secretary General as well replaced, even though this new Secretary General is still close to the regime and is still seen as being unpopular. And there have also been talks on an economic level as well, looking at economic policy, I think, as an appeal to people that are starting to have reservations about the effect, obviously, of these protests on the economy. So there were some very sort of decisive moves made by the regime there. And as I say, a subtle sense of sort of confidence in them doing that.
Well, we shall see what happens, as Sunday is a full working day. Thanks very much for joining us from Cairo. Well, Egypt was top of the agenda at the International Security Summit attended by Western leaders in Germany on Saturday. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton warned of a perfect storm across the Middle East if genuine reforms aren't implemented. From Munich, Tim Friend reports.
World leaders here are playing a game of catch-up. Taken by surprise by events in Egypt, they're grappling with who would take President Mubarak's place if and when he leaves office. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton warned other leaders in the region they suppress dissent at their peril.
Some leaders may honestly believe that their country is an exception, that their people will not demand greater political or economic opportunities, or that they can be placated with half measures. Again, in the short term, that may be true. But In the long term, it is untenable.
The German leader, Angela Merkel, who saw revolution in Europe 20 years ago, sees parallels now in the Middle East.
Es ist absolut notwendig.
It is absolutely indispensable that those freedoms that we hold to be universal, freedom of the press, freedom of opinion, freedom of journalism, be upheld not only in Europe, in the United States, or all over the world, but that those who are in responsibility in Egypt